Jim, it seems like we've come a long way. We've moved all the way from the strategic planning process, getting the management involved, laying out a plan. Now it's time to have the players get down on the field and actually play, to get everybody involved in the whole process. Is that fairly accurate? Is that where we are now?
We've spent a great deal of time to, first of all, get people to stop pointing fingers at each other. We started this and we had a lot of people pointing fingers and blaming each other about it. We spent a lot of time to line up everybody's objectives so that everybody is marching to the same beat and they have a vision of where they're going.
So in other words, you want everybody pointing the same direction.
Right. And now what we're going to do is to line up all the team members so they're marching together in a common beat, in a common direction. And that's where we are. And so what we want to do is to start talking about 100% involvement, everybody becoming involved in the improvement process, not just management. And the best way to accomplish that is through the use of teams. Now, teams cannot be thought of as something extra, something special, something that we're doing because it's part of the improvement process. We have to make teams part of our very basic management structure, part of the way we do business. It's something we're going to have to depend upon. It's not something we do because we're trying to motivate employees. We do it because it's good business.
We want to involve our people. We want to release the energy of our people. We don't want people to simply come in and punch a clock, do their job, and leave, whether they're out on the shop floor or in the office. They're just doing their job day after day, and they're dealing with the frustrations of jobs that are not really perfect. Think of the idea of having them all participate, having them all skilled at problem solving, having them understanding the concepts of quality improvement. What's going to happen then? They are going to be sitting around tables, and I've seen it, Jim, and you've seen it, sitting around tables, excited for the first time, solving problems that have been bothering them for possibly years. They're getting the feeling that things are going to be better, that their processes are going to be more perfect. They're getting the feeling that they're going to have more pride in their company. And so they're really giving 110% now. And when they get done work, they feel good about what they've done. And a key issue here is the fact that in America, we're expected to come to work and do our job. But in Japan, they're expected to do their job, but also spend some time improving. Part of their week is spent improving their job. And what we want our people here at Accurate to do is to improve their jobs as well as simply doing their jobs.
We have to make teams part of our very basic management structure, part of the way we do business. It's something we're going to have to depend upon. It's not something we do because we're trying to motivate employees. We do it because it's good business.
And it's the way we're doing business. It is now a management structure, if you will, that there's teams meeting to go beyond last week's best performance.
My good friend Dr. Ishikawa states that a people-building philosophy will cause the program to succeed. A people-using philosophy will cause the program to fail. Think about that a little bit and what he really means. When he says you're using people, he means that you're using them for problem solving. And we think of teams primarily in the United States as problem solving. Mm-hmm. A people-building philosophy is when you empower the employees to implement and solve their own problems, not just solve problems. So there's a very, very important difference. And what we need to do is we're developing our team is empower people not only to solve the problems, but to implement their solutions. And that's a very important step forward.
So problem solving is one thing, but actually taking and implementing that they've got the capability to carry it out is what you're really talking about here.
Management and employees all together empowered to bring about change. And now when you start thinking about it, there's various different types of teams. And I think you can pretty much group them into 4 different types. First of all, there's the department improvement team. Now the department improvement team is a team where the department manager, the supervisor, the foreman, the person that the lowest level people report to, and he is the chairman of that team, and everybody that reports to that individual is a member of that team. It's mandatory, and they work on business problems that can be solved within their business unit. Now, why is it mandatory? Well, it's mandatory because I believe that I hire employees for both their mental and physical abilities. I just don't hire them to make parts and to turn these gears. I think that they have a requirement to the company to help improve, to help bring about change within that small group that they're working in. So I think that it is part of their job, and really should be part of their job description, that they're going to participate as part of the group that they're a member of. So participation in teams should be a mandatory thing. The other thing that I see in that is they do work purely on business issues. They do a Pareto analysis, and they say, what are the big paybacks to our customer, and what's the big payback in dollars to the company, and look at those 2 Pareto analysis to say, what problems are we going to work on? So that's the basic involvement, 100% involvement, working on business problems. That's what the department improvement team works on.
It's always showing direct payback to the organization.
Absolutely. Now, the next type of team is quality circles. Quality circles, to me, is a logical supplement to the improvement team. So what happens, the quality circle is voluntary. People that would like to work on something select the problem that's important to them, and they work on it. Now, this may not be a big business issue, but it's important to them. Let's say the department improvement team makes this whole distribution of the problems that they're going to be working on. And down here at the very end, the problem that has no payback to the company is the fact that 3 girls come in every day and their chairs are wet because moisture has dropped down on them. For these girls, it's a very important problem, but to find a dollar payback that's going to prioritize the department's work, you're never going to find it. What an ideal thing for these 3 girls to form a quality circle to go out and solve that problem. And that's the difference. You know, these are things that the management team has authorized solution because it's good for the employee, and it's in long run good for the company if it's good for the employee. They're voluntary, they select their problem, they solve their problem, and they implement it. And once they've implemented a solution, then the team is disbanded. So you can see the framework that quality circles really support the improvement team. The next is process improvement. These are teams that look at things that go across different functions, not within one department, but across different functions, from sales to marketing to the financial area. And we'll call those process improvement teams, or PIT teams, because they're interfunctional. They go across. And the last team that we'll talk about is task teams. And a task team is a team that there's a recognized individual problem, and management brings together a group of skilled people to work on that problem, solve that problem, and after they've solved that problem, they're disbanded and they go back to their regular job. And those are the 4 teams that we're going to talk about, and they're very important to running a team operation and aligning everybody in the same direction.
One of our real strengths here at Globe is employee involvement teams, and we call them quality circles here at Globe. Now, in the true semantic sense of the word, quality circle in the Japanese sense, maybe we're not technically quality circles in the sense that the Japanese would consider them, but that's what we call them here at Globe, and certainly it works well for us, whatever we would call them, probably. We have 4 types of quality circles, and we pretty much started all of this in 1986. The first type we have are departmental quality circle teams, and they're composed solely of hourly employees. There are no salaried employees on these teams at all. that are all from the same department, departmental teams. They meet either prior to their shift starting or directly after the end of their shift. We're very flexible with them. Whenever they want to meet's fine with us. They usually meet for about an hour. And since we can't shut our furnaces off and shut everything off and say, okay, let's have a quality circle meeting, it has to be done on overtime. So we do pay them time and a half for meeting. A typical team is composed of 7 employees, and one of the employees on the team is called the team leader. And he's there to facilitate getting the ideas, and more importantly, in many cases, the solutions or the suggested implementations out of the employees. He's also there to keep them focused on quality, efficiency, and cost, that QEC system that we try to maintain here. And these guys are, as I said, hourly people. We've worked with them. We haven't sent them off-site for training, but we've worked with them in-house to become facilitators based on training that many of the salaried employees have had off-site. The team leader then gets the ideas and hopefully the solutions or suggested implementation plans from the members of the team in their weekly meeting. He writes them down on a very simple little pre-printed form. He turns that form into a salaried employee who's the coordinator for quality circles. He's also one of the production superintendents. We really don't have need for a full-time coordinator there. He then sits on a daily plant QEC committee meeting. Meets every day. It's the plant manager's meeting. And in that meeting, it's a very multidisciplined group of people because all the people that report to the plant manager, plus some of the upper-level technical people for the corporation, sit in on this meeting. So you have purchasing and maintenance and production and shipping in the yard, and everybody's there. Each idea is read aloud in that meeting. As soon as we get them turned in, we take it to the next meeting and read them out loud. We discuss each idea very thoroughly, and we decide right in that meeting what we plan to do. And then we go out and do it. We write down on the form that they turn in exactly what we plan to do, and we post it on a clipboard right back down there where the employees work. So they can literally come in on their very next shift after they've had a meeting. And let's say they met from 11 o'clock till midnight last night, as an example, which is very possible. They could come in at 3 o'clock this afternoon at the start of their 3 to 11 shift, go down and look at that clipboard and see what we plan to do on every item. And more importantly, they can even see that we've probably already implemented some of the ideas or are already setting about implementation. That fast. We also have, and another kind of team that is very similar to this, are interdepartmental teams. Once again, they're all hourly employees, but they're composed of employees from different departments. Now, historically, we would have problems between departments. Any work environment, there's going to be some problems. We look at each downstream department as a customer of the upstream department above it. So we never want to dissatisfy any customers, internal or external for that matter. But now that we let hourly people meet and discuss problems or ways that maybe they're not really a problem, but some way we could get better at what we do, they come up with solutions that work because they are the people that actually do the work when you get right down to it. So if the raw material people were stuffing some big sliver of a wood chip down through their safety grate just because it's easier for them, and then it plugs up the hopper in the production department, which causes a big problem for the production worker, well, when the production worker sits down across the table from the raw material worker and they discuss it, it becomes very clear to them that, yes, this is a problem that's been ongoing, that when we just relied historically on the foreman to take care of it, maybe it just never got taken care of properly. We also have project teams. Now, they might meet every day when they're meeting about something. They've been given a specific task, an assignment. Could be that the assignment or task was realized as a result of a quality circle meeting from the departmental or interdepartmental activity. Might have been a complaint from a customer. Might have been that we've just noticed that we have a critical process variable that's staying out of control and we can't keep it in or something, and we have to develop something. Now, historically, to paraphrase Dr. Deming, this is the kind of activity, the project teams, that would have been done with just salaried people with all their profound knowledge and divine guidance, or however Dr. Deming would describe it. Today, though, we bring hourly people in and let them be a part of the upfront planning, right along with the salaried employees, to solve the problem or develop the new project or whatever it might be. Has been very effective. And by involving them up front like this, they buy in a lot better than in the old days when we as management with our profound knowledge would decide what to do and maybe not think of all the bugs that might be in it before we thought about it, and then go out there and shove it down the hourly employee's throat and make them try to implement something. Well, they didn't buy in at that point because they knew that they knew a lot more about it in many cases than we did. So today they're included there. And as I said, those teams might meet every day and then be disbanded after the implementation. We have a fourth kind of quality circle team that we started in 1988, and they're called inter-plant quality circle teams. We have the same basic technology at Selma and Beverly, Ohio, Selma, Alabama, Beverly, Ohio. And we thought that we might be able to transfer some of that technology better if we let the hourly employees themselves come take a look, tour the other facility, something that had never been done before. And we have realized some very favorable changes in technology. They see things that we just never saw before in all our travels going back and forth as salaried people. We just didn't see that the stoking process here at Beverly on the furnace was better than what we had at Selma. That we had fans in the stoking machines here to cool the men off, where at Selma, when it's 100 degrees in the shade and much hotter, they didn't have them. Well, they saw that when they came, and today we've made some of these improvements that make their jobs easier, make them more productive, more efficient. Didn't really cost us very much money. But maybe one of the most important aspects of interplant quality circle teams is the fact that the employees then once again start taking ownership in what we do.
The one that I think is the most important is the department improvement team, because that's the only one that all of a sudden involves the total company, every employee in the improvement process. And I hope you believe that everybody should be involved.
Well, the whole essence of the network is 100% total employee involvement, and then managing statistically, because you're not really managing people anymore. You've got people aligned, working in teams, and measuring their own performance and how to improve that. They're no longer just solving problems, they're improving performance.
And you see, this is the way to do it. This is the way to get everybody involved. You get the word out through a single effort of department improvement teams that everybody's in it. Now, when you start this, you can't expect it to work automatically and just go forward. There requires some preparation. And what we look at is really preparing that team to move into this new environment so that we can get them all aligned up. It's just like football. You play football, you go out, and the first thing you learn is how to block and tackle.
So you've got all the basic fundamentals have got to be covered. Everybody's got to know how to do each one of them.
Absolutely right. You cannot start them out and say, just go do it. We're going to have to invest a little bit in education. And where do you start with that education? You start with an awareness. Remember we did awareness with management? We're going to do awareness with employees. But here we're going to really look at involving them not just in the improvement process, but in the company. We want them to feel it's their company. We want to eliminate that them and us type this feeling. We really want to make them feel part of the company. So what do? Is you start off and you explain to them the goals and the vision and where the company's going so that you can get them feeling and touching the thoughts and the visions that the management team has. You get them involved and explain to them what is the improvement process. You know, that there's a 3-year plan. This isn't just something we're going to do today. It's something that's going to go along, and so expect more to come. We're going to take a little bit, we're going to chew on it, we're going to make it part of our department and the way we're doing business, then we're going to take something else, and we're going to continuously grow, and I'm going to invest in you as an employee because I think you're the most valuable asset we have in this company. That's what we're going to tell. That's the message we're going to leave with every employee.
All the specific things that they need in order to accomplish what we've just educated them needs to happen.
Absolutely.
So once I know it needs to happen, reducing cycle time or improving quality or creativity, I now have to have all the tools as a team member and as a team leader.
The real secret is to teach them that they have customers, and we have to improve that customer interface. We have to continuously react to that internal customer. Every corporate citizen has a customer. You have a customer, I have a customer. And every corporate citizen has value in their job. I don't care if you're a manager, if you're in finance, or if you're down in the maintenance area, or if you're in production. You take an input, you add value to it, and you provide an output. And if you don't, there's no reason for you being in the company.
It's almost like there's a continuous flow. It's not an organization chart. It's inputs and outputs, with a customer everywhere, and in a sense, every customer a supplier to the next part of the organization.
Absolutely. And really what you have is another thing is you have feedbacks. You've got to continuously have feedback loops that's involved. So many people today says, I didn't have any complaints, it must be good. No news is good news. You've heard that saying?
Oh, yeah.
No news may mean that you've lost your customer. He's gone, so he's not communicating with you. So you really need to establish that complete circle. You have to start with recognizing that you have people that you're dependent on, suppliers within the company, who provide you with input. You add value to it. You remove errors, and you pass that on to somebody else. And that's your customer. And you've got to establish a close working relationship with that supplier so that you can do your job to meet your requirements to the customer.
He's no longer somebody you beat on. You can't do it without him.
Right, absolutely. And I see companies around the world today ripping down walls that they used to put up. They used to box in the little departments. Everybody had their little department in the box. So you never even got to see the customer that was next door. Now we're ripping down those walls and we're talking directly back and forth. Now, one way of approaching this, now we've got this department that's functioning. How are we going to cement this relationship? How are we going to build this relationship? And one thing that has proven to be a very effective tool at doing that is called an area activity analysis. Mm-hmm. And an area activity analysis really is made up of a series of forms that is filled out by the department. In fact, this is the place that I like to start. When the department first comes together and forms a team, the first thing they ought to do is say, what is our department mission? Now, in most companies, every department has a mission. It's the company mission. When you form a department, you write down the mission statement for that. And you did that 10 years ago when the department was formed, and this could become obsolete, not kept up to date. Well, this is a live mission. This is what we're doing right now. And it's important that the manager and the employees together said, this is our mission. This is what we believe in. This is what we're supposed to do. And then take that to the next level manager, make sure that the total management team is in agreement that that's the mission. Once you've did that, then you need to list the major activities that go on in your department that supports that mission. And I'm absolutely shocked at the number of times I sit down with the department and we start listing these. And what do we come up with? We come up with activities that have nothing to do with the mission. It's obvious somebody else should be doing that, not this department.
And many times I've been in sessions myself within a company, and there'll be a department over here and a department over here and one over here, and they recognize they're each other's internal customers, but they have no idea what the other customer really wants. What they write down has nothing to do with what the other group even needs.
What we do is we take every activity and we say, who is the customer for this activity? And we take that activity and we say, from the customer's viewpoint, what would be their measure of quality? And so we fill out a form and we say, this is how I would measure quality from a customer standpoint. Now that's the first step. The next step is you go to that customer and you sit down with that customer and you say, we provide you this service and we think this is what's important to you. Do you agree? You know what? 30% of the time he says, no, I don't agree. That really the thing that's important to me is something else, right. Over here. This is what's important to me.
And you'll get a lot of involvement in that process, won't you?
And before I leave, we're going to come up to an agreement. And we're going to have you sign your name at the bottom of it as my customer, that this is what you expect from me. And I'm going to say to you, how am I going to measure it without feedback from you? I'm going to give you something, I expect feedback. So now what have we did? We have customer agreed to specifications and feedback systems to every individual department, a group of 10 people working together to accomplish a task. And what we do is we can build that entire matrix up. And so all of a sudden, all through the company, you've got this excitement building because everybody's talking to somebody else saying, what do you want from me and how are you going to measure it? If this is what my customer wants, how am I going to give it to him? So what you do is analyze what you're doing within your department to produce that output. And we do is check on the number of hours we spend on that activity, and then estimate how much of it is value added, how much of it is inspection, where we're inspecting to see if it's right, how much of it is doing something over because we did it wrong. And what we do now is we've developed a poor quality cost from every department, whether it's a blue-collar worker, a gray-collar worker, or a white-collar worker, or the chairman of the board. Every department now knows what their wastes are and what their potential for savings. So here within this one activity, this area activity analysis, we've established a total measurement system for the whole corporation, as well as established a direction for you. Now what you can do with that, and what we like to see, is every team, every department should establish probably 6 charts. 3 quality charts as they're viewed from their customer, and 3 productivity charts which says how efficiently is the department running. And what you should do on those charts is first you will put what is the customer expectation. That's your first target. And you've got to build yourself up to you meet that target level. And immediately when you meet that target, you should turn around and say, I'm going to set some challenges for ourselves. So now the team sets down themselves and they say, I'm going to set a new target, and this is our target, we own it. It's a challenge target for us. Many companies I'm working with will use a rule that anytime you've met a target for 3 consecutive measurement periods, you should reset that target at a higher level.
In other words, don't get complacent. Always strive to go beyond where you are.
Yes.
Because that'll draw out all the creativity of the team and ideas. Unless you're stretching yourself, it's not going to happen.
You've got sort of a systematic method that's going to look at the trend rather than just look at a goal, at immediate targets. Because the important thing isn't whether you're meeting your target. The important thing is, are you continuously improving? And that's a new thought pattern. That's the thought pattern we want to bring about. And so the constant resetting of targets is something that requires a change in the way management asks questions. And that's the reason we've corrected that situation already.
Not did you hit your goal or target, but how much have you improved? And
Yes.
what's your improvement
What's your
goal
trend?
in a sense, trend?
Absolutely. Now, once we've got the measurements in place and we understand where our waste is, now we can start talking about problem solving. And here's where we start teaching problem solving tools. Not before. We first position them so they fit into the whole organization, into the whole company, and we've got measurements for every department. Now we can talk about doing things like fishbone diagrams, Pareto analysis, establishing really where your problems are. What gets in your way? What are the bottlenecks to problem solving and decision making? Well, first of all, you've got to be aware that there is a problem. You walk right by it every day and you don't know it's there, you're not going to solve it. Second thing you got to do is have a desire to solve it. You know that this thing is wrong. It's wrong. No. And if you don't care about it, What difference does it make? It's not going to solve. You got to be trained to solve the problem. The next thing you got to be able to do is take the information, the data, and analyze it to come up with a logical conclusion, something that will actually transform the symptoms into a good definition of what the disease is. And that's error analysis. And then you need a follow-up system that's going to measure, did I do the job right? And last, you've got to have lots of liberal credit to the people that did the work to make that come about. I like to think of it as an opportunity cycle, not a problem cycle. Because what we do is we have many opportunities to contribute to the success of our company. And that opportunity cycle is an absolute important facet in developing a team relationship. What the team will do is they'll look at all these individual problems that are scattered all over, prioritize those problems, and decide which is the one that they're going to work on. Once they've did that, what's the next thing you do? The first thing you need to do is protect your customer. You got to have a customer focus.
Okay.
You know, and so the first thing we're going to do is protect our customer.
In other words, I could solve the problem but mess up my customer.
And you're letting your customer continuously receive the problem while you're doing it. So the first thing you need to do is protect your customer. Second, what do? You look at all these symptoms, all the pieces of information, and try to take these symptoms and convert them into a conclusion. So you've got to convert the symptoms into a definition of what the disease is. Then you can treat the disease. When you have defined the disease and defined how you're going to treat it, you need to run a design of experiment so that you can ensure that what you're going to do is going to work. If it works in the design of experiment, then you implement it in the process and make that whole process come together and implement it throughout the entire area. Now what you do is you really need to go back and pull out that customer protection. And that's what we don't do. We just get so anxious about going on that we forget that we put in additional inspection. So what you need to do is remove that, and you're ready to move on into accepting another problem. Now, there's a number of roadblocks to problem solving. People don't have the time. There's a lack of ownership. It's not my problem. It's got to be somebody else's. Lack of recognition, because, you know, nobody's going to recognize me if I pick up this skid and put it over there. You know, people that say error's the way of life. You know, got to live with it. You know, if it could have been fixed, somebody had fixed it already. You got to live with it. You know, you got certainly you got problems that we don't realize how important that are. It's just a burr in the serval. What difference does it make? You know, that sort of thing. A belief that they can be corrected, that I can make the difference. You've got to instill that. Some people have a poor balance between quality, cost, and schedule, and they don't realize how important quality is. There's probably the one that bothers me the most is headhunting managers. The manager that says, who caused that problem? Not why did it occur? And that's the important facet. We've got to have an attitude of we're going to focus on the process and solve the process problem. We're not going out to find out who we're going to fire because that occurred.
You know, Jim, that's such a basic concept, but one that we sometimes have such a hard time understanding and remembering. So many problems can be solved by looking at the process rather than the person. And when teams get together and look at a problem, you can really create great opportunities. And the key to teams is synergy, common focus, common energy. Well, let's do an exercise for a few minutes and really have your team leader guide you in a process of discovering what synergy is, what does it really take to get it, and how to achieve it. I think you're going to have some fun with this.
What we're going to do is we are going to take a box that has a number of items in it. Each of you are going to have a chance to look in it for a short period of time and record the number of items you see. I think this is going to be a fun exercise, and you're going to enjoy doing it.
Well, Jim, even though that was kind of a fun exercise, there's a lot of excitement in what can come from discovering what you can do by combining information and achieving a consensus and working together. How does that apply for the team?
And what happens is you're really at the point now where you've got your measurements in place. What do you do next is you set that challenge target for yourself. Once you've set the challenge target, then you need to develop a plan that will get you from your present position up to that challenge target, implement that challenge target, and the plan itself, and when you meet the target, then you should have recognition. There should be some type of award. Maybe that's as simple as coffee at the meeting. Maybe it's a cake. Maybe it's something much bigger, depending upon the amount of the accomplishment. And what that's called is the quality ring. You set a target, you develop a plan, you implement the plan, and you have a reward. What you do is you go around and around that quality ring, continuously getting better, forever improving. Because that's what the team effort is all about, continuously focusing on finding better ways of doing our job. Now that's only part of the whole team activity. The team activity is an important activity, it's an important communication system. And I think the communications with the teams is a very important aspect that we must build into the team environment. I like to see the company provide all the teams with monthly or quarterly at least status reports on what the business conditions are within the company. If you think about it, every company has two partners. They have their stockholders that provide their money and their employees that provide their lives and their waking hours practically in working for that company. Now we feel we have an obligation to provide our stockholders with a quarterly report on what's happening in the company. Why don't we have even a more important obligation to our employees to provide them with a thorough report on what's happening to the company?
Well, it's economic literacy,
yes,
virtually, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, and what the excuse I'm given is they won't understand return on investment. They don't care about it. But boy, when you tell them what it is and you explain how that impacts them as an individual, they get excited about it. They want to know what's happening in the company. And that communication link to the teams is extremely valuable. And then what you need to do is to get that team to go out and meet with their customers and get the customers to come into them. You need to close that complete communication link. That's what the team effort's all about. Cementing that customer, whether it's internal or external relationship. Teams pay off. They pay off big. Now what I'd like to have the team meeting do between now and our next session is to really start the area activity analysis. I'd like to have that done and bring it back, and we'll sit down and we'll have a group discussion before our next session.
The improvement process really centers around this power, the power of teams. Well, here we are at the halfway point. We've looked at top management commitment and ensured their continued support and involvement by designing strategically a plan with measurable results as its cornerstone. And now we've begun the teamwork process. But next session, we're going to look at the most vital part of every team, you, the individual.